A chemical engineer has been fired over apparently racist and homophobic comments during his meltdown on a flight. So let's get right into it. And the reason why we're covering this is because this kind of goes to show you that a lot of times free speech, even though it might be free, may still have a cost down the line, right? So, a chemical engineer was fired from his job after being caught on video yelling homophobic slurs during a flight and then repeatedly hurling the N word after getting kicked off the plane. Zachary Easterly was terminated by his employer, pharmaceutical and biotech company GlaxoSmithKline, after cell phone recordings surfaced showing the employee having an epic booze fueled meltdown shortly after boarding a flight at the Philadelphia International Airport, TMZ reported. And another thing to really get from this type of article is that really only drink in a place in privacy with like family and friends, right? Because anytime you introduce alcohol into a situation, that is just another factor that you have to worry about, right? So, if you're now in a public space and you add alcohol into the mix, you are probably not going to act exactly the way that you would act normally. Or you might not react the same way that you might do normally. So the first clip that TMZ obtained shows Easterly dressed in a black t-shirt yelling profanities while being removed from the flight. Easterly, who is white, sarcastically remarks that he is a white male that picked a black bag because I'm racist. He adds, "You're kicking me off the plane because I'm racist." Easterly insists he didn't do anything, but admits that he's a little intoxicated. And here's another thing, too. Why would you get intoxicated basically before even getting onto the plane to begin with? So, as flight attendants search for the unruly passenger's bag in the overhead compartments, Easterly exclaims that his carry on is a better bag than most of y'all can afford. And he's probably made like a comment like that because he's a chemical engineer, and chemical engineers, if they're good at their job, could actually make a really good amount of money, right? But it's sad to see someone, even though if they're like intoxicated at the time, to basically try to rub the amount of money that they make into other people's faces. Like that's just like not cool at all. So after being reunited with his backpack, Easterly makes his way toward the exit. On his way out, he yells that everyone on the plane is a liberal, you know what, well, F word, I guess, and expresses hope they crash the effing plane. Just before leaving, Easterly whips around and declares that he is a chemical engineer who works for GlaxoSmithKline. See, this is the issue right here, right? This comment is probably what actually got him to. Well, actually, no, it's basically these two comments, right? So just before leaving, Easterly whips around and declares that he is a chemical engineer who works for GlaxoSmithKline, right? "I'm going to quit the effing job this week," he says, before boasting that his soon to be former employer is one of the best effing companies in the world. Now, doesn't that seem kind of odd, right? You're going to quit one of the best companies in the world, but you're also going to basically express that, oh, you worked there, and also you're going to quit. But he ended up getting fired because of this whole situation. One, for mentioning that he even works for GlaxoSmithKline, but then also two, that he is going to quit the job. Why would they even bother wanting to keep him around if they know, one, that he's going to quit, and then two, they basically tainted their name because of this whole fiasco. So the incident took place aboard a flight from Philadelphia to Dallas last Tuesday. By Thursday, GlaxoSmithKline announced that Easterly had been terminated by the company. The London based multinational pharmaceutical giant released a statement condemning the engineer's remarks as reprehensible and not reflecting the company's culture. At GSK, diversity, equity, and inclusion is embraced and celebrated, and we are committed in policy, principle, and practice to maintaining an environment which prohibits discriminatory behavior and provides equal opportunity for all persons, the statement continued. In the wake of Easterly's firing, a second cell phone video has emerged on TMZ showing what happened after he had been ejected from the plane. So in the clip, a visibly agitated Easterly could be heard repeatedly using the N word, which he directs at a black airline employee, which is not cool at all. As he is escorted through the terminal, Easterly, who confidently describes himself as a cool MFer, threatens to grab his pistol and shoot black workers. Easterly again boasts that he's a chemical engineer and tells a black manager escorting him through the terminal that he is 10 times your IQ. See, this is the thing, right? The problem with this situation, right, is that it's not just the things that he says, right? It's not just that he's so intoxicated, right? It's the fact that he goes so hard in the paint with these statements while being intoxicated, which makes me believe that, like, hey, is this how you truly believe about these things? Because if that's the case, it's going to be very hard for a place to actually hire you. Because then they're going to be like, hey, they can't really just say, like, oh, you were just acting stupid because you were drunk. They have to actually start thinking, like, wait a minute. Yes, you were drunk, but it sounds more so like this is how you actually think. And if that's the case, how can we hire you if we have other people that will have very serious problems with the way that you acted? If this is your belief, you know? So when a bystander overhears Israeli's foul remarks, he warns him to watch his mouth, prompting the out of control traveler to stop in his tracks and issue a deadly threat. I'll pull my pistol, I'll kill your effing family. Now, this is a very, like, stupid thing to do because even just, like, him verbally threatening someone to end their life is potentially a very serious criminal offense, right? Like, this is a very serious thing. Like, a very serious thing that he did. So, I would not be surprised if he ends up actually going to jail for this. And the situation escalates when Easterly gets into a tussle with two men who quickly overpower the mouthy passenger and pin him down. While being held, Easterly protests, I did nothing to him. Easterly could not be immediately reached for comment, and the Philadelphia police could not say whether the airport confrontation resulted in any arrests. Now, feel free to give your thoughts if you stumble upon this, like give your personal viewpoint on this. Because my viewpoint on this is that, one, even though personally I believe in free speech, right, and you have the right to basically say whatever you want to say in my mind, understand that there's still always a cost to the words that you say, right? He probably wasn't thinking that he was going to lose his job, but also he wasn't also thinking that he was going to be that, like, blasted from alcohol, right? So just be very careful, especially in, like, a public situation, like because this isn't back in the time where you're, like, in 1970s with no cameras and you could pretty much say whatever you want and it truly be like just there and you're done, right? Nowadays, anyone is basically their own media company in a sense, and one 10-second video clip can go beyond super viral to the extent that you may end up losing your job, you may end up losing your career due to the things that you say, right? So again, even though personally I believe in free speech, it does not mean that your speech doesn't come with some sort of consequences, right? So him saying the things that he did the way that he did it as well, and also not to mention him literally threatening the life and lives of a person's family, he's facing probably some very serious things. So you go from probably a position in this engineering company or whatever, pharmaceutical company, where as a chemical engineer, he was probably making like 150, maybe $200,000 per year before taxes, to now maybe he might not even be able to find a job. Okay? Like that's a pretty serious position to be in due to your actions while you are intoxicated. That's why I really suggest people to like kind of like stay away from things that will change the way that they act in their daily life. Right? Like if you basically involve yourself with something that has the ability to diminish your own control over yourself, that could be a pretty big issue because this is the thing, like this is the reality, right? It doesn't take much for you to basically lose everything, right? It doesn't take much for you to lose your great career. It doesn't take much for you to basically lose a type of lifestyle that you really like, right? It doesn't take much to like end a relationship, right? So, why add another factor to worry about? So, that's my viewpoint. If you want to learn how to get out of debt and master your money, go down below and learn how to get out of debt. Feel free to give your thoughts on this situation.